The Believe. Expo smelled like sweat and desperation, wrapped in industrial carpet cleaner. Huey pushed through the crowd, shoulder bumping against a woman clutching a cardboard sign that read, "Ezekiel saved my marriage." The air tasted recycled 4,000 bodies crammed into a convention hall built for half that. "Stay close," M.M. said, voice low. His eyes tracked the security cameras mounted every 20 feet. "Butcher's already inside. We get the intel, we get out." Huey nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. The plan was simple. Blackmail Ezekiel. Get the Compound V shipment locations. Don't get caught. Simple didn't mean safe. The main stage glowed under theatrical lights, purple and gold designed to look divine. A massive banner hung overhead, "Believe in Miracles." Below it, attendees lined up for autographs, baptisms, photo ops, with third-tier soups whose names Huey couldn't remember. The whole thing felt like a megachurch crossed with Comic-Con, if Comic-Con worshipped people who could actually fly. "2 exits," M.M. muttered, mapping the room. "Emergency door stage left, main entrance behind us. VIP lounge upstairs. That's where Ezekiel will be." Huey's phone buzzed. "Butcher in position. Don't fuck it up." "Reassuring," Huey said. M.M. didn't smile. "He's not wrong." She appeared between one breath and the next. Not walked in. Not pushed through the crowd. Just present. Standing near the main stage where the VIP line snaked toward a velvet rope close enough to the mass of bodies that she could have been there all along, except she hadn't been. Huey glanced that direction without meaning to. His brain tried to process what his eyes were seeing. A girl maybe 5'2", dressed entirely in black. Gothic style, the kind you'd see at an anime convention. Dark hair tied in twin tails. Pale skin. Red eye on the right side. The left eye was wrong. Not injured. Not diseased. Just mechanical. Gold, like someone had replaced her iris with a working clock face. Tiny numbers. Moving hands. Huey looked away fast. The expo attracted weirdos. Cosplayers. Fanatics who tattooed soup logos on their necks. One girl with a weird contact lens wasn't even top 10 strangest things here. But when he looked back, she was gone. Number. Not gone. Moved. She stood 30 feet away now, closer to the emergency exit. Same outfit. Same expressionless face. Huey hadn't seen her walk. The crowd was too thick. She should have had to push, shove, squeeze between the packed bodies like everyone else. M.M. Huey started. Not now. A woman screamed. Not the fun kind of scream, the startled at a jump scare kind. The real kind. The someone just got hurt kind. The crowd rippled. Heads turned. Phones came out. Near the stage, a man collapsed. No warning. Just dropped like someone cut his strings. His wife knelt beside him, hands fluttering uselessly over his chest. "Help, someone help." Security moved in, radios crackling. The stage lights dimmed slightly as a calm voice came over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. Medical personnel are on the way." Huey stood on his toes, trying to see. M.M.'s hand clamped on his shoulder. "We're not here for this. Focus." But more people were falling now. 3, 5, a dozen. They weren't fainting. Fainting had a rhythm, a slow crumple. These people dropped mid-step, mid-word, like someone flipped a switch. The woman with the marriage sign hit the ground hard enough that her sign cracked in half. The crowd didn't panic yet. Confused, yes. Concerned. But not panicked. Not yet. "What the hell?" Huey whispered. M.M.'s jaw tightened. Could be gas. Contaminated AC. Vought cutting corners on ventilation. That made sense. Vought always cut corners, except Huey saw her again. The girl in black, standing near the emergency exit exactly where a shadow stretched from the overhead lighting rig. She wasn't moving. Wasn't helping. just watching the bodies drop with the detached interest of someone observing an experiment. Her left eye caught the stage lights. The clock inside gleamed. Look, another scream, louder. This time someone started running. That was all it took. 4,000 people remembered they had survival instincts. The stampede began. The shift happened so fast, Huey didn't process it until after. One moment orderly chaos. Security trying to maintain control. Medical staff pushing through. Next moment bodies slamming into bodies. A man shoved past Huey's elbow, catching his ribs. Someone's shoe came off. A child screamed for her mother. The crowd moved like a single organism, trying to squeeze through doorways designed for casual exit, not mass evacuation. Grabbed Huey's jacket, pulling him toward a support pillar. Against the wall. Don't let them. The surge hit them. Huey's back slammed concrete. Air punched out of his lungs. Planted his feet using his body as a shield, but the pressure kept building. People weren't thinking anymore, just moving, flowing toward any opening like water finding cracks. More bodies dropped. Not from the stampede, from whatever was wrong with them. An old man clutched his chest and went down. A teenager in a Homelander's shirt collapsed mid-run, tripped 3 people behind him. Huey's vision blurred at the edges. Couldn't breathe. Too many bodies. Too close. Then he saw her again. The girl in black stood on a lighting platform 15 feet above the crowd. Huey didn't see her climb. Didn't see her move. She was just there, perched on the metal framework, like she weighed nothing, watching the chaos below with those mismatched eyes. The clock eye was spinning. Fast. Faster than any clock should move. Behind her, something materialized in the shadows. Not a person. A shape. Human-sized, but wrong. It moved like liquid peeling away from the darkness near the rafters, and Huey's brain couldn't make sense of what he was seeing. Because people don't just appear out of nothing. The shape dropped into the crowd, vanished in the mass of bodies. Huey opened his mouth to say something, warn someone he didn't know. But M was already pulling him sideways, using a gap in the crowd to drag them toward the VIP stairs. Move now. They ran. Behind them, the screaming got worse. In the VIP lounge, Butcher stood with his back to the window overlooking the main floor. He didn't look at the chaos below. Didn't need to. The muffled sounds told him enough. His phone buzzed. Ezekiel. Where are you? We need to talk. Butcher smiled, nothing friendly in it. Right where I want to be, he muttered and headed for the backstage corridor. Below, the girl in black tilted her head slightly, watching 3 security guards rush toward the emergency exit she'd been near. They didn't see the shadows move. Didn't see the second figure peel away from the wall behind them. Her lips moved barely. A single word too quiet for anyone to hear over the screaming. Aleph. The clock in her left eye spun faster. A brief flutter in her chest, time being drawn. Consumed, spent. Acceptable cost. The world slowed. Not for everyone. Just for her. Time stretched like taffy, and she moved through it not fast, but faster than the world could track. 3 steps. 5. She was past the guards, past the choke point, positioning herself near the baptism pool corridor before time snapped back to normal speed. The guards kept running, unaware she'd ever been there. Kurumi Tokisaki stood in the shadow of a maintenance door, perfectly still, and began counting bodies in her head. 4,000 attendees. Minus the ones already down. Minus the ones who'd escape in the next 60 seconds. She did the math. Efficient. Clinical. The city of devouring time had already begun its work. Invisible. Patient. Draining what she needed while they tore themselves apart. Enough. The golden mechanism ticked forward, and somewhere behind her, the first clone stepped out of the darkness near the baptism entrance ready. That was such a wild way to start a story. We see this mysterious girl, Kurumi Tokisaki, just appear out of thin air with a clock in her eye. She is not even using a gun at first to take people out, because she is using her city of devouring time. Well, I guess she is playing with time, which is way scarier than any superpower Vought has ever seen. It is super creepy how she calls these people a harvest, like she is just shopping for groceries. Do you guys have any idea about her clock eye? Do you think she is a hero, or just a different kind of monster? Let me know in the comments, and let's see what happens next. The air changed first. Huey felt it before he understood it, a thickness in his lungs, like breathing through wet cotton. His vision swam at the edges. The support pillar pressed cold against his spine, while MM shoved through the surge clearing space with his shoulders. Medical emergency, the PA system announced again. Calm, professional. Please proceed to the nearest. A woman collapsed mid-sentence, phone still clutched in her hand. Her husband caught her, lowered her down, looked around for help that wasn't coming. Huey's stomach lurched. Not nausea. Something deeper. Wrong. Something's in the air, he said. MM didn't answer. His jaw-worked eyes scanning for threats he couldn't name. We need to move. Now. They pushed toward the VIP stairs. Every step felt heavier than the last, like wading through invisible resistance. Huey's pulse hammered in his ears, too fast, too loud. Around them, more attendees dropped. A teenager, an elderly couple, a security guard, mid-radio call. No screaming this time, just bodies hitting the floor with soft, final thuds. The stampede slowed. Not because people calmed down, because they couldn't run anymore. From her position near the maintenance corridor, Kurumi counted. 43 down in the last minute. Heart rates dropping. Time bleeding out of them in imperceptible streams, flowing toward her like water finding low ground. The city fed, not loudly, not visibly. It simply drew what it needed, seconds, minutes, hours compressed into raw fuel. Most wouldn't notice the difference. A slight fatigue, dizziness, confusion. Enough to drop the weak, enough to panic the rest. Her left eye tracked the flow. Golden hands spinning backward as stolen time accumulated. The mechanism was elegant, efficient, self-sustaining once initiated. She didn't smile, didn't feel satisfaction. This was inventory management, nothing more. A clone emerged from the shadow near emergency exit B, positioned where Kurumi had calculated the next surge would concentrate. Not to kill, to redirect. To ensure the maximum number stayed within the city's radius, long enough to matter. The math was simple: 4,000 attendees minus early escapees divided by time per person multiplied by panic coefficient. Acceptable yield. She shifted position, using a single burst of Aleph, to relocate from maintenance corridor to the catwalk above the baptism preparation area. The brief acceleration cost her 3 seconds of stored time. The clock eye spun faster, consuming, then settled. Worth it. Better vantage point, more control. Bassier. In the Vought command post, a glorified security office behind the stage, 3 handlers stared at monitor feeds showing chaos they couldn't explain. Medical's overwhelmed, one said, not looking up from his tablet. We're past 40 casualties. Heat exhaustion doesn't do this. The senior handler, a woman named Torres, lit a cigarette despite the no-smoking policy. Lock it down. Nobody leaves until we know what we're dealing with. Lockdown people are... I said lock it down. Torres exhaled smoke toward the ceiling. If this is an attack, we don't need footage of Vought losing control hitting CNN in 10 minutes. Secure the perimeter. Shut the main entrance. Tell medical it's a gas leak and they need to stay calm. What about the casualties? What about them? Torres tapped ash into a coffee cup. They came to a Vought event. They signed waivers. Right now, our job is containing the narrative, not playing hero. The handler's fingers hesitated over his radio, and if it gets worse, then we make sure it looks like something we couldn't have prevented. Torres turned back to the monitors, watching attendees collapse in clusters. Get me legal. And tell PR to draft 3 versions: medical emergency, terrorist incident, and act of God. We'll pick one depending on who we can blame. Huey made it to the VIP stairs because MM literally dragged him. His legs wanted to stop working, wanted to sit down, wanted to close his eyes and sleep, despite the screaming, the bodies, the wrongness saturating everything. "Stay with me," MM growled, one hand locked on Huey's jacket. "Don't you fucking quit." "I'm not." Huey's vision blurred. He blinked hard. "I can't." "Yes, you can." They hit the landing. Huey collapsed against the railing, gasping. His heartbeat felt irregular, like it kept forgetting its job. Below, the main floor had transformed into something from a disaster movie. Attendees lay scattered like dropped dolls. Others wandered in circles, disoriented, bumping into each other. A few still tried to reach the exits, but security had sealed the doors. "Trapped." "Butcher," MM said into his phone. "Where are you?" Static. Then, backstage, Vought's locked us in. "Us." "Ezekiel's here. Terrified. Thinks it's an attack." MM's expression didn't change. "It is an attack, just not the kind he's thinking. You see what's happening? People dying. Vought covering up." MM glanced at Huey, who'd slumped a sitting head between his knees. Huey's barely standing. "Whatever this is, it's not gas. It's targeted." Butcher's laugh had no humor in it. "Targeted by who? The air?" MM didn't answer. Couldn't. Because he'd seen her just for a second crossing the catwalk with impossible speed there, and gone before his brain processed the image. A figure in black. Red and gold eyes. Not human, not soup either. Something else. "Get Ezekiel talking," MM said finally. "We need answers." "What kind of answers?" "The kind that explain why Vought's letting people die to avoid a scandal." The line went dead. Kurumi descended from the catwalk, using shadows the way others used stairs. The baptism area sat empty now, drained by evacuation attempts that fed directly into the city's radius. Perfect. She'd need this space later. For now, it served as a junction point: 3 corridors, 2 emergency exits, 1 main passage to the stage. Control points. A security team approached from the left corridor, 4 men with tactical gear and expressions that said they'd done this before. Vought's cleanup crew, most likely. Trained to handle incidents. Kurumi didn't hide, didn't need to. She raised 1 pistol, ornate, clock-faced wrong in a way that made eyes slide past it, and whispered a single word: "Bet." The lead guard's movement slowed. Not dramatically, not obviously. Just enough that his next step took a half-second longer than it should. His radio call stretched into incomprehensibility. His teammates reacting to his sudden lag, bunched up behind him. Perfect formation. 2 clones materialized from the corridor shadows. Not from thin air. From angles the security cameras couldn't see spaces between light and dark where perception blurred. The guards didn't have time to process what they were seeing. They barely had time to reach for weapons. The clones moved with mechanical precision. Knives, not guns, quieter, less evidence. 1 guard went down clutching his throat. Another took a blade between the ribs, angled up into the heart. The 3rd tried to run, made it 3 steps before a clone caught him from behind. The 4th guard, still moving in Bet's slowed time, finally drew his gun. Fired twice. Bullets punched through a clone's torso, which dissolved into shadow rather than bleed, then hit the wall behind. Kurumi shot him once. Center mass, he dropped. The entire engagement took 11 seconds. The clones dragged the bodies into a storage closet, then dissipated back into darkness. Kurumi reloaded without looking at her work. The city continued its harvest. Her clock eye accumulated the stolen moments. Efficient, she moved on. By the time emergency services tried to enter Vought, had the perimeter locked down. "Gas leak," Torres told the fire captain through the fence. "We've got it contained. Medical's handling casualties. We're getting reports of mass casualties. We need access, and you'll get it after we've secured the scene." Torres smiled without warmth. Insurance liability. You understand. The captain didn't understand. Didn't matter. Vought lawyers were already en route, ready to bury any argument in paperwork. Inside the expo, the death toll climbed. 53, 60, 72, most from the city's drain, some from the stampede. A few from clone interventions that left no evidence, except bodies that looked like they'd suffered cardiac events. Clean, professional, invisible. Huey finally stood leaning heavy on the railing. Below, the chaos had evolved into something worse than panic. Exhaustion. Resignation. People sitting next to corpses because they lacked the energy to move. Security standing useless, awaiting orders that made sense. And somewhere in that nightmare, barely visible, a figure in black moved through the shadows like they were doorways. "MM," Huey whispered. "Do you see her?" MM followed his gaze. Saw nothing. Then a flicker. A presence where nothing should be. Gone before certainty. "Yeah," MM said quietly. "I see her." "What is she?" MM's hand found his sidearm. Didn't draw it. Knew it wouldn't matter. Something we're not equipped for. On the main floor, another cluster collapsed. The PA system announced medical protocols. Vought handlers coordinated narrative control. Emergency services argued with lawyers outside. And the city of devouring time continued feeding patient and thorough, while its architect counted seconds like an accountant tallying receipts. Kurumi's gaze lifted just once toward the VIP area, where two men stared down at the carnage. She didn't acknowledge them, didn't need to. They weren't targets. Not yet. She turned away, moving toward the backstage corridor where someone more valuable waited. Someone with information. Someone whose death would serve multiple purposes. Ezekiel. She began the hunt. The PR team arrived before the last body stopped twitching. 3 lawyers in suits that cost more than most cars. 2 crisis managers with tablets already displaying draft statements. 1 media liaison whose job was making disasters disappear. Torres met them at the command post entrance, cigarette down to the filter. "Body count?" the lead lawyer asked. 87 confirmed. Another 20 critical. Torres crushed the cigarette under her heel. Medicals calling it mass cardiac event. Heat stress underlying conditions. Cameras. Public feeds cut at 6:47 p.m. Internal only from that point forward. The lawyer nodded. Good. Statement goes out in 20 minutes. Isolated medical emergency, crowd density exceeded safety parameters. Full investigation pending, thoughts and prayers. Standard. What about witnesses? Nobody leaves until they sign an NDA. Anyone who already posted footage gets a cease and desist by morning. The lawyer checked his watch. This never happened, Torres. By tomorrow, it's a tragedy. By next week, it's forgotten. Torres lit another cigarette. And if someone asks why we didn't evacuate immediately, we were securing the scene, preventing further panic, waiting for emergency services to establish safe egress. The lawyer's smile was practiced empty. We're the victims here too, don't forget that. Butcher found Ezekiel in a dressing room that smelled like incense and desperation. The televangelist sat on a leather couch, phone pressed to his ear, voice pitched high enough to crack. "I don't care what your protocol is, I need security now. People are dying out there, and I'm a..." He saw Butcher, went pale. "I'll call you back." Ezekiel. Butcher closed the door behind him, locked it. "We need to talk. I don't know who you are, but this is a restricted..." "Save it!" Butcher crossed the room in 3 steps, grabbed Ezekiel by his designer collar, slammed him against the wall hard enough to rattle the crucifix hanging there. "You were going to tell me about Compound Vive shipments before all this started. So tell me now." Ezekiel's eyes went wide. "You're insane. There's a mass casualty event happening, and you want to..." "I want to know where Vaught's shipping superpowers to babies." Butcher's grip tightened. "And you're going to tell me, or I leave you here to die with everyone else." "I don't..." "You do. Huey got video of you and that young man, very young man, Very compromising positions. Butcher leaned close. So unless you want that footage everywhere you talk, now. Ezekiel swallowed. Nodded. There's a warehouse. Newark. They process the shipments there before distribution. Address. I don't know the exact. Butcher slammed him again. Try harder. Industrial district near the port. I swear that's all I... The lights went out. Not everywhere. Just this room and the hallway beyond. Targeted. Surgical. Butcher released Ezekiel's hand, moving to the gun he'd tucked in his waistband. Stay quiet. What's happening? Someone's here. Security. Something else. In the darkness, something moved. Not footsteps. Not breathing. Just displacement. Air shifting where nothing should be. Butcher fired twice. Muzzle flash lit the room for half a second. Empty. Nobody there. Then a voice soft and utterly calm from behind him. He's mine. Butcher spun. Saw red. Saw gold. Saw a girl who shouldn't exist holding a pistol that looked like it belonged in a museum. She shot him, not to kill. The bullet took him in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. He hit the ground hard, weapon skittering away. Ezekiel screamed. Kurumi didn't look at Butcher again. He was neutralized. Bleeding but alive. Useful later, perhaps. The televangelist tried to run. Made it 2 steps before Kurumi whispered a word he couldn't hear. Everything stopped. Ezekiel froze mid-stride, 1 foot raised mouth open on a scream that wouldn't come. Time locked around him like amber holding him perfectly still while the world continued without him. Kurumi approached, studied him, not with interest. With the detached focus of someone reading a document, she raised her free hand, pressed 2 fingers to his temple, and whispered another word. Yud. The past opened, not like memory, like watching footage. Ezekiel's recent days spooled backward through her perception. Phone calls, meetings, emails. Vought handlers giving instructions, shipment manifests, routes, facility codes, Newark warehouse, container 47B, shipments every Tuesday and Friday. Contact Dr. Vogelbaum, authorization clearance level 7. She absorbed it all in seconds. Efficient, precise. Everything she needed from a man who thought himself important. Zion, the word shifted. Ezekiel's freeze deepened no longer temporary suspension, but total cessation. His body locked time around him, compressed into a single, endless moment. Kurumi placed the pistol against his chest. You served your purpose. She fired once, released the hold. Ezekiel collapsed, bullet in his heart, dead before he understood what killed him. Kurumi stepped over his body, checked Butcher still breathing, conscious, staring at her with fury and dawning comprehension. Tell your friends, she said quietly, that efficiency matters. Then she was gone. Not running, not hiding. Simply absent, pulled back into shadows that shouldn't exist. Butcher lay there, bleeding, staring at the ceiling, while his brain tried to process what the fuck just happened. kicked the door open 30 seconds later. Found Butcher sitting up against the wall, hand clamped over his shoulder wound. Found Ezekiel face down in a pool spreading too fast. Jesus Christ. Knelt beside Butcher. What happened? Her. Butcher's voice came out rough. The girl. She's real. Who? The one Huey saw. Black dress, wrong eyes. Butcher laughed ugly and pained. She walked through the dark like it was a fucking door. Shot me. Killed Ezekiel. Took maybe 20 seconds total. checked Ezekiel's pulse. Nothing. Single gunshot, perfect placement. Professional. She say anything? Efficiency matters. Butcher met MM's gaze. She's not here for the expo. She's hunting something, and we're in her way. Huey appeared in the doorway, pale and shaking. Vaught's locking down the entire building. Nobody in or out. They're saying it's protocol, but he saw Ezekiel, stopped. Oh God. He's dead. Stood. And Butcher's shot. We need to move. Where they've got security on every exit. Then we go through them. MM helped Butcher to his feet. This building's a cage, and something's hunting in it. Kurumi relocated to the baptism area where water still sat undisturbed in the pool and stage lights cast long shadows, perfect for concealment. She'd spent 3 bullets, gained 17 minutes of stolen time from the guard she'd killed in the process. Net positive. More importantly, she had Ezekiel's information. The warehouse, the shipments, Compound 5. Worth investigating, later. For now, the expo remained profitable. The city still fed slower but steady. Another hour would yield enough reserve time to sustain major operations for days. And there were still targets. The Seven's handlers coordinating response upstairs. The medical chief declaring casualties natural causes. The head of security who'd ordered doors sealed while people suffocated. All valuable. All convertible to time and position. But not urgent. Kurumi settled into a maintenance alcove, invisible to cameras, and waited. Let Vought think they were regaining control. Let the remaining attendees exhaust themselves. Let the boys scramble. She had patience, and time was quite literally on her side. In the command post, Torres received confirmation that the building was secure. All exits sealed. Security posted at every access point. Medicals stabilizing the critical cases. She looked at the lawyers. How long do we keep this locked down? Until morning. Gives us time to clean the narrative. By the time they leave, they'll have signed so many forms, they won't remember what actually happened. And the deaths, tragic, unavoidable. Investigated thoroughly. The lawyer closed his tablet. Vaught's already released a statement. Markets won't even hiccup. Torres nodded. Felt something like relief. She didn't know that every camera feed she was watching had been carefully curated. Didn't know that entire sections of the building had become blind spots. Didn't know that the person responsible for 87 deaths was currently sitting 40 feet below her position, counting minutes like a banker counting interest. Didn't know that by morning the body count would be higher, much higher. Huey helped MM bandage Butcher's shoulder with a torn shirt and prayer. "We need to get out," Huey said, "before whoever that was comes back." "She's not coming back." Butcher winced as MM tightened the makeshift bandage. "Not for us. We're not what she wants." "Then what does she want?" Butcher thought about the way she'd moved. The precision, the complete absence of emotion. "Everything," he said finally. "She wants everything. And she's going to take it one piece at a time until nothing's left." MM checked the hallway. Empty, for now. "Then we find a way out. Because I'm not dying in a fucking mega church." They moved into the corridor. 3 men trying to escape a building that had become a trap, while somewhere in the darkness, something patient and terrible waited for the next opportunity to feed. Vought discovered Ezekiel's body at 8:17 p.m., not because they were looking, because a handler went to retrieve him for a scheduled reassuring statement to attendees, and found the dressing room door ajar, lights out, and the televangelist cooling on expensive carpet. Torres got the call while coordinating exit protocols. "Problem," her assistant said. "Ezekiel's dead." Torres didn't pause. "How?" "Single gunshot, chest, professional." "Witnesses?" "None." Room was dark. Cameras show nothing blind spot. Torres exhaled through her teeth. Calculated. Cardiac event. Stress-induced. We're in the middle of a mass casualty situation. Nobody's going to question one more body. There's a bullet hole. Then remove the bullet and cremate him before anyone asks questions. Torres crushed another cigarette. And find out who else was in that hallway. I want names. 3 floors down, Huey sat against a wall, trying not to throw up. Butcher's blood had soaked through the makeshift bandage, turning the torn shirt dark and sticky. MM kept pressure on the wound, face locked in the expression he wore when things went catastrophically wrong, and he had to pretend otherwise. "Talk to me," MM said. "What did you see?" Butcher's laugh came out wet. "You wouldn't believe me." "Try." "A kid, maybe 5 foot nothing, dressed like a goth funeral. Eyes that don't work right, one red one like a fucking clock. Butcher winced. She moved through the dark like it was water. Shot me before I could blink. Froze Ezekiel mid-run. Just stopped him. Then killed him while time stood still. Huey looked up. Time stood still. That's what I said. MM's hands didn't stop working. You lost blood? Shock does things to perception. I know what I saw. Then you saw something that doesn't exist. MM finished tying off the bandage. Which means we're dealing with a soup we've never heard of with powers Vought doesn't want anyone knowing about. Or something worse, Butcher said. Huey's stomach lurched again. He'd seen her too. Twice. Moving wrong. Appearing where she shouldn't be. And now, Ezekiel was dead. Butcher was shot, and they were trapped in a building that kept getting quieter in ways that made his skin crawl. We need to leave, Huey said. Now, before. Before what? MM's voice stayed level. Before the thing that can stop time decides we're next. She said we're not what she wants, Butcher said. And you believe her? Butcher met MM's gaze. Yeah, I do. We're beneath her. Whatever she's hunting, it's bigger than us.
But
Kurumi watched them from a ventilation grate 2 corridors away, not physically. Through a clone's eyes, silent patient positioned, where the boys would never think to check. She didn't need to hear their conversation. Their body language told her everything. The wounded one, Butcher. Dangerous but compromised. Unpredictable. Useful as chaos. The civilian Huey. Terrified. Liability. No tactical value. The organized one. MM. Military bearing, calm under pressure. Coordinating movement. Making decisions. That one. He was the structure holding them together. Remove him. The others would scatter. Butcher would go feral. Huey would freeze. The team would cease functioning as a unit. Efficient. Kurumi withdrew the clone's perspective. Made her decision. Not now. M was alert. Positioned defensively surrounded by walls that limited approach angles. But soon. When exhaustion eroded awareness. When separation created opportunity. She had time.
Sigh.
By 9 p.m. Vought had the narrative locked. Official statement released to press. Believe Expo experienced a tragic medical emergency resulting from crowd density and inadequate ventilation. 89 attendees suffered cardiac events. Full investigation pending. Vought International extends deepest condolences to affected families and will cooperate fully with authorities. Subtext unspoken but understood. Lawsuits incoming. Settlements prepared. PR campaign ready. Markets insulated. Ezekiel's death got folded into the count. No autopsy. No questions. Just another name on a list that would be forgotten by next quarter's earnings call. Torres watched the statement go live from the command post. Felt nothing. This was the job. Damage control. Narrative management. Making disasters digestible for public consumption. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Yes. You have a hunter in your building. Male voice. British. Unfamiliar. Who is this? Someone who watched your televangelist die? Someone who knows what killed him. A pause. And someone who knows you're not equipped to stop it. Torres's hand tightened on the phone. If you're trying to blackmail Vought, I'm trying to survive. Your building's a killing floor. That thing in the dark isn't done. And when it comes for the rest of you, your PR won't mean shit. The line went dead. Torres stared at her phone. Considered calling security. Considered dismissing it as a prank. Considered that 89 people were dead, and she still didn't know why. She lit another cigarette with shaking hands. Kurumi relocated to the upper galleries, where Vaught's handlers coordinated from glass-walled offices overlooking the expo floor. 7 targets, all valuable, all convertible. The head of security authorized lockdown, trapped civilians. The medical director signed off on cardiac event diagnoses without investigation. The senior PR handler crafted the cover story. The facility manager disabled emergency exits to prevent unauthorized departure. 3 lawyers drafted ND as threatened witnesses buried evidence, all complicit, all guilty of prioritizing corporate liability over human life, all resources. But killing them now would trigger escalation Kurumi didn't need. Vought would bring in reinforcements, specialists, soups with actual combat training instead of PR polish. Inefficient. Better to let them think they'd contained the crisis. Let them relax. Let them believe their protocols worked. Then harvest them when guards dropped. Kurumi settled into an observation position. The city continued its work slower now, maintaining rather than draining, keeping just enough pressure to prevent full recovery while attendees waited for safe egress procedures. By morning, she'd have enough stored time to sustain major operations for weeks. And by morning, 1 more person would be dead. On my board, MM made the decision at 10 p.m. We split up, he said. Find separate exits. Meet outside if we make it. Splitting up's how people die in horror movies, Huey said. Staying together's how we all die if she comes back. MM looked at Butcher. You good to move? I'm good to kill something. That's not what I asked. Butcher stood, swayed slightly, steadied. I'm good enough. MM nodded, turned to Huey. You go left. Service corridors. Stay away from cameras. Exit through the kitchen loading dock. What about you? I'm going right. Staff elevator. Emergency override should still work. And me, Butcher asked. You're going through the front. Make noise. Draw security. Give us cover. Butcher's grin had no humor. Bait. Distraction. Same thing. MM clasped Butcher's good shoulder. Brief. Solid. Don't die. Wasn't planning on it. They separated. 3 men moving through a darkened building, each convinced they'd made the smart choice, none of them knowing that one of them was already marked. Kurumi tracked MM through clone observation. He moved well, checking corners, avoiding exposure, using cover properly. Military training evident in every decision. But training assumed rational threats, human threats. It didn't account for something that could see through time, move through shadow, and kill before target awareness registered danger. MM reached the staff elevator, pried open the panel, started working the emergency override. Kurumi positioned herself in the stairwell adjacent. 2 clones flanking, 1 above, 1 below. Escape routes sealed. Not yet. Let him think he'd succeeded. Let him believe he'd outsmarted the danger. Then, when exhaustion and relief eroded awareness, strike. Kurumi's left eye tracked time flowing. Calculated optimal intervention window, adjusted for variables. 3 hours until dawn. 2 until facility evacuation began. 1 until MM's guard dropped completely. She had patience, and MM had run out of time without knowing it. MM reached the staff elevator at 11:43 p.m. Emergency override took 90 seconds to hack. Old system poorly maintained. He'd done this before in a dozen other buildings where Vought cut corners on security to save budget. The panel beeped. Green light. Doors shuttered open. He checked the shaft. Empty. Car waiting 3 floors down. Cable intact. No obvious traps. Still felt wrong. Not wrong like abort mission wrong. Wrong like something's watching wrong. The kind of instinct that kept soldiers alive in Helmand province when everything looked clear but wasn't. MM pulled his sidearm. Checked the corridor behind him 1 more time. Nothing. He stepped into the elevator shaft access ladder. Started climbing down toward the car, metal rungs cold under his palms, breathing steady. Focus maintained despite exhaustion clawing at his edges. 3 floors, 30 rungs, 20 seconds if he moved careful. He made it to 15. The air changed. Not temperature, not smell, just pressure. Like reality hiccuped. Like someone pressed pause on the world for a fraction of a second, too brief to consciously register. But long enough that hindbrain screamed danger. MM's hand tightened on the ladder, looked up. She stood on the platform above him. Hadn't been there 5 seconds ago. Was there now? Small figure in black red eye, gleaming in emergency lighting, the other eye reflecting nothing human. Shit. He went for his gun. Time stuttered. Not stopped. Not frozen. Just delayed. His hand moved through syrup-thick air, reaching for a weapon that suddenly felt miles away instead of inches. Kurumi descended the ladder. Not climbing, flowing. Movement divorced from normal physics, each step taking her 3 rungs down in the span one should take. MM's gun cleared his holster, rose toward target acquisition. Too slow. She was beside him. Not above anymore. Beside. 1 rung away, close enough he could see the clock mechanism in her left eye turning backward, consuming something he couldn't name. Sein. The word hit him like a hammer. Everything locked. Not his body, his time. The seconds around him compressed into a singularity, holding him perfectly still, while the world continued its rotation without him. His finger froze on the trigger. His lungs froze mid-breath. His heart froze between beats. Only his awareness remained. Trapped, watching. Kurumi studied him with the detached interest of someone reading a label. "You see patterns, huh?" she said. Voice soft, empty of malice, empty of everything. "You organize, you lead, you adapt." MM couldn't respond, couldn't move, couldn't even blink. "That makes you dangerous over time." She tilted her head slightly. "So, I'm removing time from the equation." She drew a knife, not ornate, not ceremonial, just a blade, functional, clean. MM's eyes could still track movement, could still see, could still understand that he was about to die, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing, he could do to stop it. "This isn't personal," Kurumi said. "Not apologetic, not cruel, simply factual. Your tactical infrastructure. Removing you collapses their capability, efficiency." The blade went in below his ribs, angled up, professional, aimed for the heart with the precision of someone who'd done this hundreds of times across timelines MM would never understand. She held it there, watching his eyes, making sure he comprehended. Then she withdrew the knife in time. Reality snapped back. M gasped. Or tried to. His lungs refused. He looked down, saw red spreading across his shirt, felt nothing yet. Shock was a mercy. His gun fell, tumbled down the shaft, clanged against metal somewhere below. He tried to grab the ladder. Fingers wouldn't respond. Tried to speak. Mouth wouldn't work. The last thing he saw was Kurumi stepping past him, descending toward the elevator car, already moving to her next objective, without looking back. The last thing he thought was Huey. Then gravity took him. He fell. Masamhan. Huey heard the crash from 2 corridors away. Metal hitting metal. Heavy. Final. The sound of something breaking that shouldn't break. He ran toward it. Didn't think. Just moved. Because that sound meant someone fell, and someone falling in this building tonight meant they weren't getting back up. His voice cracked. The service corridor was empty. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. Huey reached the staff elevator access door, yanked it open, looked down, saw MM at the bottom of the shaft, crumpled, unmoving, blood pooling underneath. No. Huey fumbled for his phone, fingers shaking too hard to unlock it. "Somebody help, please." No one answered. No one came. Huey climbed down the ladder, hands slipping, vision blurring, reached the bottom. MM's eyes were open, staring at nothing. The wound in his chest was precise, surgical, not from the fall. Someone had stabbed him before he dropped. Huey knelt there, hands hovering uselessly over MM's body, making sounds he didn't recognize as coming from himself. Shock wrapped around his brain like cotton, muffling everything except the central, unbearable fact. MM was dead, and somewhere in this building, the thing that killed him was still hunting. Butcher found them 20 minutes later. He saw Huey first, sitting against the wall, covered in blood that wasn't his, eyes vacant. Not crying, past crying. Then he saw Monsieur's. Butcher's face did something complicated. Rage and grief and calculation warring for dominance, settling finally into an expression that looked almost peaceful in its finality. He knelt beside MM's body, checked for pulse out of habit, not hope. Found nothing. Studied the wound, clean, professional, angled perfectly to kill fast. She did this? Butcher said. Not a question. Huey nodded. Couldn't speak. How long ago? 20 minutes. Maybe less. I heard him fall and Huey's voice broke. I couldn't do anything. I just found him like this. Butcher stood. Looked around the shaft. Saw MM's gun at the bottom. Saw scuff marks on the ladder where 2 people had climbed. Saw a single drop of blood 3 rungs up that didn't match the pattern of EMM's fall. She'd been close. Kill range. MM never had a chance. We need to tell someone, Huey said. Police, FBI, someone who can what? Butcher's voice came out flat. Stop her. You saw what she did to Ezekiel. What she just did to MM. You think the cops are equipped for something that can freeze time and disappear into shadows? Then what do we do? Butcher looked at MM's body one more time. Something in his expression closed off. Locked down. The part of him that still cared about rules and lines and not becoming the monster, that part died with MM. We survived tonight, Butcher said. Then we kill her. However we have to. Whatever it takes. We don't even know what she is. Don't matter what she is. Everything bleeds. Butcher turned toward the exit. Come on, we stay here, we're next. We can't just leave him. He's already gone, Huey. And if we don't move, we join him. Huey looked at MM one last time. Wanted to say something. Wanted to make it mean something. Couldn't find words that didn't feel like lies. He followed Butcher into the corridor, leaving MM alone in the dark. At the bottom of a shaft, in a building that had become a tomb. Tatin. Kurumi emerged from the elevator car, 2 floors down, untouched by what she'd just done. The knife was clean. Wiped on MM's shirt before she left. The blade had served its purpose. Now it went back into shadow storage, ready for next use. She'd spent 18 seconds on the kill. Gained 9 minutes from MM's life force, net positive though barely. His resistance had been stronger than expected, military training extended even to unconscious will. Interesting. Irrelevant. More importantly, the boys were broken. She'd watched their patterns long enough to understand their structure. MM was decision. Butcher was rage. Huey was conscience. Remove decision, rage, and conscience turned on each other, consumed each other, paralyzed forward motion. They'd survive the night. Probably. But they'd ceased being an organized threat. Now they were just 3 men stumbling through dark, each isolated by trauma, despite physical proximity. Useful. Butcher's rage, properly directed, could damage Vought more thoroughly than Kurumi could alone. Let him think he was hunting her. Let him burn resources, connections, leverage, trying to find something he couldn't comprehend. Meanwhile, she'd continue her actual work. The city still fed. Another 3 hours until dawn. Enough time to harvest the remaining Vought handlers she'd marked earlier. The head of security, the PR liaison. Maybe one of the lawyers if opportunity presented. All efficient, all strategic, all moving her toward the real target, Homelander. Kurumi checked her internal clock. Calculated optimal timing for next phase. Adjusted route to avoid the areas where the boys were likely to go. No point killing them yet. They'd serve better alive, broken and seeking revenge they'd never achieve. She moved into the maintenance tunnels, becoming absence rather than presence, and left the grieving to those who still believed grief mattered. By midnight, Vought discovered MM's body. They logged it as casualty number 90, accidental fall during evacuation attempt. No investigation, no autopsy, no questions. Just one more name on a list that would be settled out of court and forgotten by next earnings call. Torres signed off on the report, without reading past the first line. She had bigger problems. The building was still locked down. Attendees were getting restless. Media was asking questions PR couldn't quite answer. One more dead, nobody didn't matter. She lit another cigarette and moved on to the next crisis. In a service corridor 3 floors up, Butcher sat with his back against cold concrete, staring at nothing. Huey had stopped shaking. That was worse somehow. The shock settling into permanent damage, rewiring a kid who'd seen too much into something harder and more broken. "We're gonna kill her," Huey said. First time he'd spoken in an hour. Voice empty, factual. "Right?" Butcher looked at him, saw something he recognized. The moment innocence died and got replaced with purpose. Seen it in mirrors, seen it in war zones. Never thought he'd see it in Huey. "Yeah," Butcher said. "We're going to kill her." "How?" "Don't know yet. But we'll find a way." Butcher's hand found the gun he'd recovered. Held it like a promise. "Whatever she is, soup demon something worse, she can bleed. And anything that bleeds can die." Huey nodded. Didn't look comforted. Didn't look anything. They sat in silence. 2 men who'd lost someone they couldn't afford to lose. While somewhere in the building, the thing that took him continued its work with the patient efficiency of a machine that neither knew nor cared about the damage it left behind. I am actually in shock right now because MM is gone. This chapter proves that nobody is safe in this story because the plot armor is totally gone. I just realized Kurumi is way more tactical than we thought because she targeted EMM specifically to break the team. She calls him tactical infrastructure, which is just so cold-blooded. It shows she does not care about feelings or justice, only about being fast and efficient. How do you think Butcher and Huey will survive without the brains of the operation? Personally, I really don't think this is the end for the boys. Starlight heard the screaming before she reached the main floor. Not panic screaming. Exhaustion screaming. The sound people make when their bodies give out and their brains can't process why. She'd been upstairs when the first wave hit. Evacuating VIPs, playing the role Vought assigned her. Miles saw Reassure represent the brand. By the time she got free, 89 people were already gone. Now she was trying to save the rest. Light burst from her palms as she descended the grand staircase. Attendees looked up, hope flaring in exhausted faces. Starlight, one of the 7, here to fix things. She wished she believed it. "Everyone stay calm." Her voice carried across the hall. "Medical teams are here. We're getting you out safely." Lies. All lies. But what else could she say? The truth that Vought sealed the exits, that people died while handlers worried about liability, that nobody with power gave a damn, would cause the panic they were trying to avoid. So she lied. And tried to make the lies real. A cluster of attendees sat near the stage, too weak to stand. Starlight moved toward them, light radiating steady reassurance. "Can you walk? I'll help you to." Someone collapsed behind her. Then 3 more. Not where she'd been. Where she wasn't looking. Starlight spun. "Medic I need." Another group went down on the opposite side. Like dominoes. Like something was systematically targeting whoever she wasn't actively protecting. She ran toward them. Reached the first-person elderly woman, pulse thready but present. "Stay with me. Help is coming." The woman's eyes focused on Starlight, grateful, trusting. Then her gaze slid past Starlight's shoulder and went wide. Starlight turned, saw a figure in black standing at the edge of her light's reach. Small. Still. Wrong in ways that made Starlight's powers flicker despite full charge. Red eye, gold eye, no expression. "Who are you?" Starlight stepped forward, hands raised. "If you're causing this," the figure tilted its head slightly. Studied Starlight like an equation. Then turned and walked into shadow that shouldn't exist, disappearing before Starlight could close half the distance. Behind her, more people collapsed. In In the Vought command post, Torres watched 6 camera feeds simultaneously. Angle 4 has Starlight in frame. Hold that shot. Casualties increasing in West Quadrant. Don't care. Keep camera on Starlight. Make her look heroic. Torres lit another cigarette. If we're going to have a disaster, at least we're getting good footage. The PR handler nodded. Statements ready. Starlight worked tirelessly to save lives during unprecedented crisis. Good. Make sure that's what people remember, not the body count. On screen, Starlight knelt beside another victim. Light glowing around her. Perfect visual. Made her look like an angel, ministering to the suffering. What the cameras didn't show 3 corridors away, more attendees dying while she was distracted. Torres smiled. Send that footage to AP. Hero angle plays better than tragedy. Kurumi positioned herself where Starlight couldn't be simultaneously. Not running, not hiding. Simply occupying space optimally. When Starlight moved east, Kurumi directed clone activity west. When Starlight focused on clusters near exits, Kurumi had cities pressure shift toward the baptism area. The result was mathematical, predictable, inevitable. Starlight saved 15 people. 23 died in areas she couldn't cover. Net negative. But she'd never see it that way. She'd only see the 15 and blame herself for the 23. Efficient psychological warfare. Kurumi watched from a maintenance catwalk as Starlight literally glowed with effort, burning energy to illuminate and reassure, making herself a beacon that drew attention away from the zones where actual killing continued. Perfect. A clone materialized beside Kurumi, whispering information. Security repositioning. Medical evacuating critical cases. Vought prioritizing VYP extraction. Kurumi nodded. Let them. Every minute they spent on protocols was another minute city fed undisturbed. Every camera focused on Starlight was one not documenting actual casualty distribution. She shifted position. Not because Starlight threatened her, because the pattern needed adjustment. Time to make the hero work harder. Starlight felt it before she saw it, a wave of wrongness spreading through the south wing. People who'd been stable suddenly weren't. Their breathing changed. Pulses weakened, like something was draining them from the inside. She ran, didn't think, just moved, because that's what heroes did. They ran toward danger, reached the baptism area, found 30 attendees sitting in clusters looking dazed, not dying, not yet, but getting there. Hey. Starlight's hands lit up, washing the room in white gold glow. Look at me. Focus on me. Some did. Their color improved slightly. Others kept fading. Starlight moved between them, touching shoulders, projecting confidence she didn't feel. You're going to be okay. Stay awake. Help is... A door opened at the far end. Security team entered, weapons drawn. Ma'am, we need to evacuate this section. These people can't move yet. Orders are to clear the area. Structural integrity concerns. Bullshit. Starlight knew bullshit when she heard it. Give me 5 minutes. Ma'am, 5 minutes. The security lead hesitated, nodded. 5. Then we extract whether you're done or not. Starlight turned back to the attendees. 5 minutes. 30 people, some walking wounded, some who needed carried. Not enough time. She started anyway, got 6 people to the exit. Came back for more. Found 3 had collapsed in the 90 seconds she was gone. Tried again, saved 4, lost 2. The math wasn't working. Would never work. She could save individuals but not the group, could act but not solve. And somewhere in the shadows, something was making sure of it. Huey watched from a supply closet 2 floors up, phone pressed to his face, streaming what he could see to a backup cloud. Starlight moving through the baptism area like a warrior angel. Glowing. Determined. Trying so hard, it hurt to watch. Also people dying anyway. He couldn't reach her. Security had the approach locked. Vought controlled the routes. And even if he could get there, what would he do? He wasn't a soup, wasn't a hero. He was just a guy who'd already watched one friend die tonight and couldn't do anything about it. "She's trying," Huey whispered to no one. "She's really trying." Butcher's voice came in through his earpiece. "Trying's not enough. Not against something like that. Then what is surviving, remembering, making sure when this is over people know what really happened? And if no one believes us?" Butcher didn't answer. On screen, Starlight saved another person. Behind her, 2 more collapsed. By 2 a.m., Starlight had pulled 17 people from immediate danger. 21 died while she was doing it. She didn't know the count. Wouldn't until later. Right now, all she knew was exhaustion, frustration, and the growing certainty that nothing she did was enough. The baptism area was clear. She'd gotten everyone who could move out. The rest were in medical's hands. She stood in the empty room, hands still glowing, faintly breathing hard. Someone clapped. Slow, mocking. Starlight spun. The girl in black stood near the entrance. Hadn't been there a second ago. Was there now. "Who are you?" Starlight's fists lit brighter. "What did you do to these people?" The girl tilted her head, studied Starlight with those wrong eyes, red gold, mechanical. "I did what systems do," she said. Voice soft, empty. "I created optimal conditions for harvest. You simply couldn't be everywhere at once." "You're killing them." "They're dying. The distinction matters." The girl took a single step forward. Not aggressive, observational. "You saved 17. Commendable. Insufficient, but commendable." Starlight fired. Light burst from both palms, enough to stun a soup, enough to blind anyone normal. It hit empty air. The girl was gone. Not dodged. Just absent. Like she'd never been there. Starlight's breath came ragged. Looked around. Nothing. No one. Just her standing alone in an empty room, glowing uselessly, while somewhere else people kept dying. Vaught's official statement released at 3 a.m. Thanks to the heroic efforts of Starlight and Vought personnel, casualties were minimized during tonight's tragic event. Starlight worked tirelessly to save lives, representing the best of the Seven's commitment to public safety. Attached photos of Starlight glowing, helping people, looking angelic. Not attached casualty count. Cause of death. Timeline of Vaught's delayed response. Torres approved the release. Closed her laptop. Lit her last cigarette of the night. "Crisis contained?" the lead lawyer asked. "As contained as it's getting." Starlight gave us the hero narrative. Casualties get buried in liability settlements. Markets won't care. And the thing that actually caused this, Torres exhaled smoke. Doesn't matter. We tell the story we want told. Reality's negotiable. Starlight sat on the stage edge at 4 a.m., uniform streaked with blood that wasn't hers. Hands dimmed to nothing. Huey found her there. Didn't say anything. Just sat beside her. "I tried, Tasser," Starlight said, voice flat. "I really tried. I know. It wasn't enough. It never is." Huey stared at his hands. Saw MM's blood still under his nails. "Not against this." "Then what do we do?" Huey didn't have an answer. Neither did Starlight. They sat in silence, while Vaught's cleanup crews worked around them, bagging bodies, scrubbing floors, erasing evidence, making tragedy into statistics, making failure into heroism, making truth into narrative. Kurumi observed from the upper gallery, counting results. City had gained 43 minutes of stored time. Not optimal. Starlight's interference reduced efficiency, but acceptable. More importantly, Starlight was broken. Not physically, psychologically. She'd remember tonight. Remember that trying wasn't enough. Remember that being good didn't save people when systems wanted them dead. That doubt would fester, grow, eventually consume. Efficient long-term investment. Kurumi withdrew from observation. The expo was nearly finished. Dawn approached. Time to transition to the next phase. Homelander would respond to this. Had to. Vought couldn't afford their flagship hero to be absent during a crisis. And when he came thinking himself invincible, thinking himself the solution, she'd show him exactly how wrong that assumption was. Kurumi descended into darkness, leaving Starlight to her grief and Vought to their lies and the boys to their impossible choices. The board was set, the pieces positioned. All that remained was the endgame. Homelander arrived at dawn, not walking, flying, descending from pink-orange sky like something out of scripture cape billowing perfectly in manufactured wind. Cameras caught every angle. Attendees who'd survived the night looked up with expressions somewhere between relief and worship. He landed center stage, boots touching down with just enough force to suggest power held in check. Smiled. The practiced one, the I'm here to save you one. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice carried without amplification, I understand you've had a difficult night, but you're safe now. I'm here. Applause, scattered, exhausted, but genuine. Vought's camera zoomed in. Perfect shot. Hero arriving to resolve crisis. Markets would love it. Starlight watched from the sidelines, uniform still streaked with blood, and felt something close to nausea. He'd been absent for 8 hours. Let 89 people die. Let her try and fail alone. Now he showed up for the photo op. Homelander's gaze swept the expo hall. Took in the remaining attendees, the medical stations, the cleanup crews trying to make disaster look manageable. His smile tightened. Just slightly. Enough that anyone paying attention would notice. This wasn't crisis. This was carnage. And someone had done it on Vought's property under the Seven's supposed protection. Someone would answer for that. Where's the threat? He asked Torres, who'd materialized beside him with a tablet full of sanitized reports. Contained, Torres said. Medical emergency, crowd density, heat exhaustion. Bullshit. Homelander's voice dropped below camera range. I can smell death. This wasn't natural. Torres didn't blink. Official statement? I don't care about statements. I care about who did this. His eyes went red around the edges. Not full heat vision, warning light. Because when I find them, they're going to learn what happens when you embarrass Vought. Kurumi observed from the baptism pool's upper tier where stage lighting created blind spots cameras couldn't penetrate. Homelander stood 50 feet away, radiating confidence built on a lifetime of never meeting resistance. Physical God syndrome. The belief that power meant invulnerability. She'd killed things with that belief before, many times. Across timelines. Across realities. They all bled the same when you found the method. But this wasn't about killing yet. This was about establishing possibility. Proving that the untouchable could be touched. That the god was flesh. Kurumi checked her reserves. City had fed well overnight. 43 minutes stored. Enough for what she needed. She descended from the tier, moving through areas where baptism participants had left wet footprints, using moisture reflection to bend light just enough that casual observation slid past her. Not invisibility, just disinterest. Human perception failing to prioritize what didn't fit expected patterns. Homelander conducted his performance, reassuring attendees, letting them touch his cape, playing the savior, while cameras documented everything. He didn't see her approach, didn't register threat until she was 20 feet away, standing in open space, hands empty, offering no aggression. Then he turned, met her gaze. Red, gold, mechanical. His smile froze. Who the hell are you? Homelander's voice carried authority on reflex. Civilian you need to evacuate to... She took one step forward. His heat vision flickered on. Automatic threat response. Red glow building behind blue eyes. She whispered something. Single word. Too quiet for cameras or attendees. Aleph. The world changed tempo, not stopped. Not frozen. Just lagged. Like reality needed a moment to buffer before continuing. Homelander felt it, the sensation of moving through resistance that shouldn't exist. his heat vision building slower than thought commanded. His flight reflex engaging but delayed. She crossed the remaining distance. Not fast, not slow. Just moving while he was stuck processing the fact that he was stuck at all. Stood directly in front of him. 5 foot nothing. Looking up at 6'3" of American perfection. Raised one hand. Placed it flat against his chest. Zion, everything locked. Not his body movement was still his. But time around him compressed, held, became viscous. His heat vision charged, aimed, ready to fire. Too slow. She was already stepping back, hand withdrawing, word released. Time resumed normal flow. Homelander's heat vision fired. Struck where she'd been standing. Burned empty air. By the time the beams cut off, she'd relocated to his peripheral vision 15 feet away, expression unchanged. He spun, fired again, missed again. She wasn't dodging, wasn't running, just occupying space he couldn't target fast enough. Homelander's jaw tightened. This didn't happen. He was faster than thought, stronger than God. Nothing touched him without permission, but she had. And worse, she'd walked away like it didn't matter. Cameras caught none of the exchange. Just Homelander standing center stage. Heat vision firing at empty space, looking confused for the first time in his public career. Torres swore under her breath. Cut that feed, now! Which one? All of them showing his face. She grabbed her radio. Get him off stage. Medical emergency. Exhaustion. Whatever lie gets him out of frame. But Homelander wasn't moving. Was staring at something or someone no one else could see. His chest heaved. Not from exertion. From something else. Fear. Number Homelander didn't feel fear. Didn't he? Kurumi stood in shadow watching him process. She'd touched him, frozen him, made him miss. 3 things that had never happened before. 3 impossibilities stacked on top of each other, forming a question he couldn't answer. If she could do that, what else could she do? And if she could do it to him, apex, predator, strongest soup alive, god and American flag, then what did that make her? The answer sat in his brain like poison, something worse. Kurumi turned away. Not fleeing, not hiding. Just finished with the interaction. She'd accomplished her goal. Planted the seed. Homelander would spend the next hours, days, maybe weeks, wondering about the girl who'd touched him and walked away. When she killed him, it would be in front of cameras, in front of witnesses, in front of the world that worshipped him. But first he needed to understand he could die. Now he did. She disappeared into maintenance access, leaving Homelander standing under stage lights, surrounded by people who expected him to fix everything. While his brain tried to process that something had just treated him like he was ordinary, touchable, mortal. Starlight saw Homelander's expression shift. Watched him go from confident to confused to something else, something she'd never seen on his face before, uncertain. She moved closer. Are you? I'm fine. His voice came out too sharp, defensive. Just checking for threats. What did you see? Nothing. He turned to her, eyes still carrying red afterglow. Did you see anyone unusual, small? Black clothes, wrong eyes. Starlight went cold. You saw her. Her, the one who... Starlight gestured at the expo hall. The bodies, the failure. The one causing this. Homelander's jaw worked, processing. What is she? I don't know, but she's... Starlight searched for words. She's not like us, not like anything. Homelander looked at where the girl had been standing, where she'd touched him, where she'd proven that invincibility was a lie people told themselves until someone called the bluff. Find out, he said. I want to know what she is, where she came from, what she wants. And if we can't, his expression went flat, empty. The face he wore when he decided someone needed to die. Then we pray she doesn't want us. In Vaught's command post, analysts reviewed footage frame by frame. There. One technician froze the image. Subject in black, female, approximately 5'2", Asian features, unusual ocular characteristics. Torres leaned in, saw the red eye, the gold eye that looked like clockwork. Who is she? No ID match, no records, no prior appearance in any database. That's impossible. Everyone's in a database. The technician highlighted the girl's position. Watch what happens when we track movement. The footage played. The girl walked forward. Homelander turned to face her, then glitch, just for a second. Video artifacts. Temporal distortion like something had corrupted the feed. When it cleared, she was touching Homelander. Then she wasn't. Then she was gone. Run it again, Torres said. Same result. Glitch, contact, disappearance. Torres crushed her cigarette. Made a decision. Bury it. All footage of her gets corrupted. Storage failure, technical issues. If anyone asks, the cameras malfunctioned during the crisis. What about Homelander? Let him look. He won't find anything we don't want him to find. Torres closed her laptop. As far as the world knows, Homelander arrived, stabilized the situation, and prevented further casualties. Hero story. Clean narrative. And the truth, Torres smiled without warmth. The truth is whatever we say it is. It is. By noon, headlines ran. Homelander saves Believe Expo survivors. Starlight Homelander work tirelessly in crisis. Vought investigating tragic medical emergency. Not one mentioned girl in black. Impossible powers. Homelander firing at ghosts. Just heroes. Tragedy. Corporate responsibility. Standard. Butcher sat in a safe house 10 miles away, watching the news on mute. Saw Homelander's interview. Saw him talk about containing the threat and protecting innocent lives. Saw the micro-expression when the interviewer asked if he'd identified the cause. The brief flicker. The tell that meant Homelander was lying because he didn't know. She got to him, Butcher said. Didn't kill him, but got to him. Huey sat beside him, still wearing clothes stiff with MM's blood. Why not kill him? She killed Ezekiel. Killed MM. Why leave Homelander alive? Butcher thought about it. About efficiency. About how the girl moved like she was following a plan written in language they couldn't read. Because killing him now would have been private, Butcher said finally. In the chaos. No witnesses that mattered. She wants it public. Why? Same reason you don't just shoot tyrants in back alleys. You hang them in town squares. Butcher's expression went distant. She's not just killing him. She's killing the idea of him. And for that, she needs the world watching. Huey looked at his hands. Imagined MM falling. Imagined Homelander falling. Wondered which would feel worse to witness. Wondered if it mattered. Kurumi sat in a warehouse across town counting resources. 43 minutes stored. Enough for one major operation. Gimel on a target as durable as Homelander would cost 30-35. Acceptable, but timing mattered. Location mattered. Witness density mattered. Not yet. Soon. She closed her eyes. Let the clock behind her left iris tick forward. Felt seconds accumulate. Felt time becoming weapon. Homelander had felt her touch. Knew she existed. Knew he wasn't untouchable. That knowledge would eat him. Make him paranoid. Make him sloppy. And when he was sloppy, when his guard dropped because paranoia exhausted even gods, she'd end him. Publicly. Permanently. The endgame was set. All that remained was letting the pieces move into position. Vought scheduled Homelander's public address for noon. National Reassurance Broadcast, they called it. Homelander standing on the Expo's main stage cameras from 6 networks, live stream to 4 million viewers. The message crisis contained hero prevails, trust restored. Standard playbook, proven effective. Markets responded well to visible strength. Homelander stood backstage reviewing talking points he wouldn't use. He never did. Talking points were for handlers who didn't understand that people wanted authenticity, or at least the performance of it. 2 minutes, a production assistant said. Homelander nodded, straightened his cape, checked his reflection, perfect as always. The brief encounter yesterday still sat wrong in his mind. The girl, the touch, the sensation of being delayed. He pushed it aside. Anomaly, fluke, irrelevant. He was Homelander, strongest soup alive. God in primary colors. Nothing touched him twice. He walked onto stage. The applause was scattered. Tired. People who'd survived a nightmare, now forced to watch their savior perform for cameras. Homelander smiled anyway. The big one, the America loves me one. My fellow Americans. He began voice carrying across the plaza. Last night you witnessed tragedy, but you also witnessed triumph. You saw ordinary people demonstrate extraordinary courage. You saw heroes like Starlight work tirelessly to save lives. Camera 2 caught him in profile. Perfect angle, heroic jaw, compassionate eyes. And you saw that when crisis comes, when the darkness threatens, we rise to meet it. Together, as one nation, indivisible. The prompter scrolled, feeding him platitudes he'd memorized from a dozen previous disasters. He delivered them flawlessly, hitting every emotional beat, every pause calibrated for maximum impact. 4 million people watched. One of them wasn't listening. Kurumi stood 60 feet from the stage, positioned where camera 3's blind spot met crowd density, not hiding, just unnoticed. Existing in the space between attention and awareness, where human perception failed to prioritize data that contradicted expected patterns. She'd arrived an hour early, established positions, calculated angles, verified that Homelander would stand exactly where trajectory required. Everything aligned. She checked her reserves one final time. 43 minutes stored. Gimel on a target as durable as Homelander would cost approximately 34 minutes based on biological resistance factors. Acceptable margin. She raised her right pistol. Not pointing, just ready. The ornate mechanism caught sunlight clockwork visible through brass casings. Whispered, "Zine!" Homelander's speech stuttered, not externally. His mouth kept moving, words kept flowing, but internally, everything stopped, not his thoughts. Those continued accelerating into panic as his body refused commands. Couldn't turn his head, couldn't activate heat vision, couldn't fly, couldn't even blink. Frozen, locked, held in a moment that stretched while the world moved forward without him. His eyes could still see, tracked movement. Found her, standing in the crowd. Small figure in black, red eye, gold eye spinning backward like it was consuming something. The second pistol raised. Different mechanism, different purpose. She mouthed a single word. Gimel, then fired. No visible projectile, no explosion, no sound that cameras caught. Just Homelander standing center stage mid-sentence, suddenly going rigid. The teleprompter kept scrolling. His lips stopped moving. Someone in the production truck said, "Is he?" Homelander aged, not slowly, not gradually, but compressed. Decades of wear manifesting in seconds. Hair graying at temples, skin losing elasticity, muscle tone degrading. The compound V in his system, engineered to slow aging heel damage, maintain perfection, overwhelmed by time, itself accelerating inside his body. 30 years and 30 seconds. His knees buckled. Caught himself on the podium. Looked at his hands, veined, spotted, trembling. "What?" The word came out raspy, old. "What did you?" Kurumi released Zion. Homelander could move again. Could fly. Could fight, except he couldn't. His body was failing. Not from injury, from time. From biology catching up to a man who'd never been meant to age. He tried to take flight. Managed 3 feet before gravity reclaimed him. Hit the stage hard enough to crack wood. The crowd noise changed. Confusion to horror. Phones came out. Cameras focused. Homelander looked out at them. At 4 million live stream viewers. At the nation that worshipped him. Saw their expressions shift from adoration to disgust. Gods weren't supposed to bleed. weren't supposed to weaken, weren't supposed to die on camera like ordinary men. He tried to speak, to explain, to command them to keep loving him. Blood came out instead. Not from injury, from organs failing, from a body that had been held together by chemistry, and now chemistry was abandoning it. Homelander collapsed, still breathing, still conscious, still aware that millions were watching him die, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing, he could do to stop it. The broadcast cut to emergency standby. Too late. Everyone had seen.
Asa.
In the production truck chaos, what happened? What the fuck happened? I don't know. He just cut the feed, cut everything. Already cut. But it's everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Everyone's posting. Shut it down. Shut all of it down. We can't. It's already. The senior producer put his head in his hands. 30 years at Vought. Handled every crisis, managed every scandal. This was different. You couldn't spin a god dying on camera. You couldn't make people forget what they'd just witnessed. The myth was dead. And myths didn't resurrect. Torres received the call while coordinating damage control from the Expo's command post. He's downstage. Broadcast went out live. She didn't respond immediately. Couldn't. Brain trying to process implications cascading faster than she could calculate. Homelander dead meant stock collapse, leadership vacuum, liability, exposure, congressional investigation, international confidence crisis, soupy market destabilization. Ma'am. Torres lit a cigarette with shaking hands. Lock down the stage. No one approaches the body. Get medical to declare it. Whatever medical declares. And get legal on every network. Threaten, bribe, sue, I don't care. That footage you cannot circulate. It's already circulating, everywhere. Torres closed her eyes. Then we're in uncharted territory. What do we do? I don't know. First time she'd said those words in 20 years. I genuinely don't know. Butcher watched the live stream from a bar 3 miles away. Saw Homelander collapse. Saw him bleed. Saw him die like any other piece of meat. Expected to feel satisfaction, vindication, joy. Felt nothing, just emptiness where rage used to be. Because this watching a god die wasn't justice, wasn't revenge. It was just death, impersonal, clinical, efficient. She did it, Huey said beside him, voice flat. She actually killed him. Yeah. Shouldn't we feel something? Butcher thought about Becca, about MMM, about every person Homelander killed and every person who died because Homelander existed. Should we? He asked. Huey didn't answer. On-screen emergency services surrounded the body. Medical personnel looking confused. This wasn't overdose, wasn't cardiac arrest, wasn't assassination via conventional means. This was something else. Something they had no protocol for. Butcher turned off the TV. It's done. What do we do now? Same thing we always do. Survive. Try not to become what we're fighting. Butcher stood. And hope that thing in the dark forgets we exist. Starlight stood in the plaza 20 feet from where Homelander's body lay, covered in a tarp that didn't quite hide the shape. Cameras still recording. Media trying to get statements. Vought handlers trying to control narrative. All of it noise. She'd watched him die. Watched the strongest person she knew reduced to nothing. And the terrifying part wasn't that he died. It was that she'd seen who killed him. The girl. Standing in the crowd. Visible for maybe 3 seconds. Long enough for Starlight to make eye contact. Long enough to see complete indifference. Not satisfaction. Not victory. Just completion. Like checking an item off a to-do list. Then gone. Dissolved back into the crowd like she'd never existed. Starlight looked around. At survivors. At media. At Vought handlers scrambling. Everyone asking what happened. Nobody asking what came next. And that was the worst part. Because Homelander had been a monster. But he'd been a known monster. A mapped variable. Something you could plan around, fight against, define yourself in opposition to. What replaced him? What replaced a god? Starlight didn't know. Didn't want to find out. She walked away from the chaos uniform still carrying yesterday's blood, and wondered if anything would ever feel clean again. Odds. Kurumi exited the plaza, using the same routes she'd mapped 3 days ago. Not fleeing, not hiding, just departing. Objective achieved, no reason to remain. She'd spent 34 minutes of stored time, left with 9, plus whatever the ongoing city accumulation had generated. Net neutral, trending positive. Efficient operation, successful outcome. Behind her sirens, shouting. The sound of a system collapsing inward because its central load-bearing structure had been removed. Not her concern. She'd proven what needed proving, that godhood was illusion, that power was temporary, that everything with a timeline could be accelerated to its end. The Compound 5. Data from Ezekiel's information remained unexplored. Worth investigating, eventually, when opportunity presented. For now, withdraw. Observe. Let the chaos stabilize before determining if further intervention served her interests. Kurumi walked 3 blocks, turned into an alley, and stepped into shadow that folded around her like fabric. When she emerged, she was elsewhere. Different city, different time zone, different problem. The Believe. Expo became history. Homelander became cautionary tale. Vought became case study in institutional fragility. And Kurumi Tokisaki became rumor, urban legend. The thing people claimed to see, but couldn't prove existed, exactly as intended. 6 hours later, the body count was finalized. 97 dead, 43 critical, 112 requiring extended medical care, and 1 god. Networks ran the footage on loop, despite Vaught's legal threats. Courts couldn't enforce injunctions fast enough. Social media couldn't delete posts faster than they replicated. The world had watched Homelander die. No one could take that back. Vaught's stock dropped 48% in after-hours trading. Suspended pending investigation. 7 senators called for hearings. 3 countries revoked SUPE deployment agreements. The system that had protected them shattered. All because one variable they'd never accounted for proved their invincibility was performance art. In conference rooms and situation rooms and war rooms, across multiple continents, people asked the same question. What killed him? No one had answers. Medical couldn't explain the aging. Forensics couldn't find the weapon. Witnesses described a girl who didn't exist in any database. Some theories emerged: secret soup, foreign agent, biological weapon, divine intervention. All wrong. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Something had come to their world, accomplished its goal, and left without explanation. And if it could kill Homelander, what else could it kill? Who else? When? The questions haunted everyone who'd watched, who'd survived, who'd trusted in heroes and found them mortal. 3 days later, Butcher sat in the safe house alone. MM's funeral had been private, family only. Butcher wasn't family, wasn't welcome, wasn't forgiven for getting MM killed. He didn't argue. Couldn't. Huey had gone home to his father. Needed time, needed space, needed to remember what normal felt like before this job hollowed him out. The boys as an organization, as a concept, as a team, were finished. Butcher poured whiskey. Didn't drink, just stared at it. Homelander was dead. The thing he'd dedicated his life to achieving. The revenge he'd promised Becca. Done, finished, complete. So why did it feel like losing? Because someone else had done it. Because EMM died in the process. Because the girl in the dark had proven that all Butcher's rage, all his planning, all his sacrifice, none of it mattered. She'd accomplished in 3 days what he couldn't do in years, and she'd walked away like it was nothing. Butcher finally drank, tasted ash. Somewhere out there, that girl existed. Doing whatever she did. Killing whoever she killed. Moving through the world like a scalpel through tissue. And he couldn't stop her. Couldn't fight her. Couldn't even understand her. All he could do was hope she stayed satisfied with what she'd taken. Hope she didn't come back. Hope was a pathetic thing to be left with, but it was all he had. The Believe Expo was demolished 6 months later. Too many memories. Too much blood. Too much footage of gods dying on camera. They built a memorial instead. Names of the dead carved in marble. Generic platitudes about tragedy and resilience. Homelander's name wasn't on it. Vought pretended he'd never existed, scrubbed him from marketing, deleted archive footage, paid settlements to anyone who mentioned him publicly. The Seven got new members, new faces, new lies about protection and safety. The world moved on, because moving on was easier than confronting what they'd witnessed. But some people remembered, some people knew. A girl in black with wrong eyes had proven that gods could die, and somewhere in shadows they couldn't map, she was still out there. Counting time, measuring efficiency, waiting for the next objective. The world didn't get better, it just got quieter. And to be honest, I did not see that coming at all. Homelander, the man who thought he was a god, died as a weak old man in front of the whole world. Kurumi realized a punch would not hurt his ego as much as showing everyone he is mortal. She basically destroyed the entire Vought brand in 30 seconds without even breaking a sweat. It is so interesting how she just walks away into the shadows like it was just another day at work. What do you think about this ending? Is the world safer now? It would be super peak if Kurumi actually becomes the new big threat. Tell me what you think, and thanks for watching.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and be sure to turn on notifications so you won't miss our future videos. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.